The time is now 7 p.m. Time for the CBC Evening News. This time check is brought to you by Buster.
In their Butterfield headlines,
the finance minister outlines a challenge for customs operations in the region. The leader of concerned CLECO policyholders hopeful about a turnaround at the company. And in sports, Cave Hill and Mona are at the top of the leaderboard in the inter-campus games.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord with the CBC Evening News. Customs operations in the Caribbean will face significant challenges arising from new trade arrangements like the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement. Finance Minister Chris Sinclair made the observation today as he addressed the 33rd meeting of the Caribbean Customs Law Enforcement Council at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center. Peter Thorne reports.
Mr. Sinclair has advised top customs officials throughout the region that the Economic Partnership Agreement with Europe will create two specific effects, namely the export and revenue effects.
The export effect involves the opportunities created through improved market access to European and regional markets, as well as other investment opportunities. However, the revenue effect, on the other hand, will undoubtedly be an enormous challenge for CARIFORUM states, since the removal of high tariffs may mean a loss of substantial revenue collected by customs administrations throughout the region. The EPA, for example, will require CARIFORUM states to liberalize 86.9% of the value of their imports over a 25-year period, with 52.8% after 5 years, 61.1% taking place in the first 10 years, and 82.7% within the first 15 years.
Minister Sinclair says threats such as drug trafficking through Caribbean airports pose significant risks to communities, and it's vital that the strengths and weaknesses of these points of entry be analyzed.
Gone are the days when the role of customs administrations was simply one of revenue collection, even though as Minister of Finance I would very much like it to continue being so. Today, customs administrators around the world play a vital role in the implementation of a range of critically important government policies. They contribute, of course, to the achievement of a number of national development objectives in respect of trade facilitation, trade statistics, revenue collection, market access, and the protection of the society from a range of threats to the national security.
Minister Sinclair also lauded CCLEC for promoting capacity-building initiatives to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of customs administrations, saying they can deliver significant dividends for regional governments. Peter Thorne, CBC News.
And the Secretary General of the World Customs Organization says it's vital to have efficient customs operations around the globe. Kinio Mokoria says knowledge is vital to the upkeep of such operations in this highly technological age.
Knowledge catalyst for excellence in customs, and of course knowledge is not shouldn't remain just knowledge, but that should result in action. As in this program you say the aim of education is not knowing but action. Yes, but and that action should be based on research-based knowledge, because we need to know more what is the environment, and we need to know business needs, and we need to know what the priorities of other players. And
the leader of the concerned investors and policyholders of CLECO International Life and British American Insurance Company is optimistic there will be a turnaround in the fortunes of CLECO. June Fowler expressed the view today as she updated reporters on the latest efforts by her lobby group to secure payments of policyholders' investments in CLECO. Ms. Fowler says Judicial Manager Oliver Jordan met with them 2 weeks ago and assured them wrapping up CLECO will be the very last option to be pursued. She says when this is considered, along with assurances from late Prime Minister David Thompson and current Prime Minister Frundell Stewart, that government will ensure policyholders recover their principal, and there is cause for hope.
We cannot assume or even try to figure out what the judicial manager will do, but we know that one of the things that they will seek to do is to have a turnaround in the company, have a restructured position, as opposed to a wind-up. And wind-up is always on the table, but from the discussions that we've had, wind-up will be the very, very last resort for CLECO or British American.
Ms. Fowler says since Barbados is the parent company for CLECO operations in the Eastern Caribbean, her group is aware that the financial problem facing the company amounts to at least $1 billion.
Yes, it is, and they do have to deal with the OECS, and I believe that is why in the first couple weeks in office that this is what they had to do, to go through the region and meet with the various regulatory bodies there and the government so that they can have the right to operate as judicial manager within those territories as well. So it is not only a Barbados problem. Our problem is critical.
Another member of the group, Stanley MacDonald, believes government has a responsibility to protect poor people investing their monies. He says the CLECO issue has implications for investors and government, and he therefore voiced concern about what he claims is the central bank's silence on the issue.
Government's position here is one where government has to be held ultimately accountable for whatever inconsistencies occurred during the management and the running of CLECO and British American Insurance. So our position is, yes, we will continue to advocate and put pressure on the government because ultimately that's where the buck stops.
In the meantime, the chairman of the CLECO Policyholders Group in Trinidad and Tobago, Peter Pramel, says they are willing to welcome back former Chairman Lawrence Dupre on certain conditions, namely if he comes with the money or a firm arrangement to repay the 250,000 policyholders in the Twin Island Republic.
We have no problem with Mr. Dupre coming back in so long as he comes with a check to pay off all the policyholders. And if there are any other issues that he needs to deal with vis-a-vis malfeasance or anything of that nature, then there are certain agencies that have been set up for the specific purpose of dealing with those things, such as the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Attorney General, and the police.
Well, Mr. Pramel says policyholders have acted responsibly despite being owed over $18 billion by CL Financial. Those monies, 12 billion TT dollars, are owed to 25,000 policyholders who invested in the executive flexible premium annuities. Another 225,000 policyholders are owed over 6 billion TT dollars. Well, patients with multiple sclerosis are frustrated with the slow processing of special drugs. This issue was raised by CEO of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Dr. Dexter James, during a seminar to mark World Multiple Sclerosis Day. Dr. James says there are currently 9 patients at the QEH receiving these special drugs, which cost approximately $270,000 annually. He says this is partly because these medications are not registered under the Barbados National Drug Formulary. Dr. James says the processing of the required drugs is done through the Social Services Department, and they are working as swiftly as possible.
I'm not defending the delays in the processing, but I'm just saying what the situation is. When we ask for the information, it is not to be punitive, because it really allows us to make an informed judgment so we could actually process the application as quickly as we can. We have committed, and we've asked them to expedite any outstanding applications. They have committed to do 5 applications, I think, per month, 3 to 5 applications per month for those that we have on file, and we'll continue to process them until completed.
Dr. James is urging patients with medical insurance to exercise consideration in helping to offset the high cost of the special drugs. Well, a high-speed chase this morning involving police and an unknown man caused quite a stir for motorists passing the Norman Niles roundabout. Unconfirmed reports indicate that an unmarked police jeep was in hot pursuit of a suspected stolen car. The car reportedly crashed into a wall structure on the highway. An eyewitness said the suspect tried to escape following the crash but was quickly apprehended and taken away by police. One of the pioneers of the supermarket business in Barbados, Lloyd Allen, was laid to rest this afternoon. Members of the business community, members of Parliament, headed by Prime Minister Frondell Stewart, family and friends from his hometown in St. Philip, assembled at the Holy Trinity Anglican Church to pay their last respects. The late Lloyd Allen started his business at Well House, St. Philip. However, he was quick to recognize the stigma attached to one-door shops and decided to construct a 3-door wooden structure. This later became the springboard for further expansion expansion leading to a chain of supermarkets. Shamrock supermarkets were established at various locations around the island, including Melhouse, Blades Hill, Eagle Hall and Westbury. Barbadians from all walks of life turned out at the funeral service this afternoon to pay their tributes to this Barbadian icon. He leaves to mourn 14 children, among other members of the Allen family and related families.
Here is the Call Cafe tip of the day. As water is the main ingredient in a cup of coffee, water quality is very important to determine the flavor of your coffee.
When high prices are knocking at your door, People's Market, we knock them out and lay them on the floor. People's Market, for the widest range of household items, food stuff and more. The People's Market, knock them out with a bomb.
When the flu strikes, it never comes in the same way. If you have the flu and you want a soothing relief, there's a suitable Panadol. Panadol Hot Rem.
When high prices are knocking at your door, the People's Market, we knock them out and lay them on the floor. The People's Market, for the widest range of household items, food stuff and more. The People's Market, knock them out with a bomb.
Here's why you should pay with your Carif's branded debit card. There's no signature required, and you won't have to show ID, because your PIN is all you need to access your money. Just shop, swipe, and go. Easy access every time in less than 15 seconds. It's your money. Carif's keeps you in touch with it.
If someone has a cold drink and ice cream, they'll get that short, sharp shock of pain. In order to have sensitivity, you'll have some dentine exposed. The dentine has got these little tiny holes, or little tiny tubules. Cold travels down these tubules, hits off the nerve, and this is how we get pain. Not a day goes by that I don't recommend Sensodyne to my patients. Sensodyne travels down these little pores and calms the nerve down. It's a no-brainer. What we recommend is what works, and what we recommend is Sensodyne.
A senior science official is urging Barbadians to stop fooling themselves about mastering available technology. Director of the National Council for Science and Technology, Dr. Lennox Chandler, was delivering opening remarks in advance of a lecture today by visiting Canadian scientist Dr. John Headley. Quoting eminent Caribbean professor Nigel Harris, Dr. Chandler said, "No country, whether large or small, has become developed without embracing some form of science and technology at the local level."
It saddens me that every day I see Barbadians talking about technology, use the technology. But in actual fact, they're just speaking about cell phones and computers. And everybody believes if they have a computer on their desk at work, or two computers, one in your bedroom home or one in your living room, doing nothing, that you're really into technology. You know, computers are not being used for no economic development, for no enterprise development, for anything. You're just checking on the Bold and Beautiful to see how far it's got, or rerunning things or watching movies, but that computer is not being used for any real serious purpose. And you know, we just fool ourselves about technology. You have a digital phone, a line phone, a Chinese phone with 5 SIM cards. But what are you doing with this technology that you have? You basically are not doing that. You know?
Well, in related news, the Barbados Community College could find itself on the cutting edge of technology at the international level if an existing partnership can be further developed. This indication from Dr. John Headley, a senior research scientist at Environment Canada. Barbados-born Dr. Headley today delivered a lecture at the BCC on fingerprinting of oil sands for the environment. He says that Environment Canada was currently at the leading edge of forensic petroleum environmental work. Noting there was only a handful of researchers in this area, Dr. Headley said his trip to Barbados will not be the last in developing the relationship involving Environment Canada, the NCST and BCC.
Other colleagues from Canada will be coming, I'm sure, and we will build. And there will be synergies where we transfer technology back and forth. There's a lot we can learn from plants that grow in tropical climates, in saline, salty environments that can help us with degradation of contaminants in the Canadian North, and vice versa. There's analytical capability in Canada which aren't present here in Barbados. So samples can be analyzed, characterized. In Canada, students, bright, promising students, can come along and get transfer of technology.
The Ministry of Transport and Works is now set mid-July for completion of the roundabouts at Coral Ridge and Boarded Hall. Being built at a cost of about $6 million, the two roundabouts were expected to be completed by the end of this month. However, there were a number of challenges which contributed to the change in date. These include awaiting the removal of light and power poles and the subsequent laying of underground cables. This was to facilitate the installation of curbs and other structures that led to the roundabout. Acting Chief Technical Officer Nash Lovell told CBC the ministry has redesigned the roundabout at Coral Ridge in order to stay within its budget.
We have actually modified the design somewhat in terms of lowering the finish levels. That has allowed for us to revise the quantities in such a way as to offset the impact of the very deep excavations that we had found. Obviously, I haven't been able to deal with time, but cost itself has not escalated. At present, we are still within budget. We expect that we will get very close to completion before there's any need for a major consideration of further funding on this project.
Well, Mr. Lovell also said that Carmichael Road has been reopened to permit access through Boarded Hall. Well, still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region, but first, the courts quiz. In what year was the Department of Archives established in Barbados?
What does financial flexibility mean to you? To Mike, it means he can get to his office in a Signia-financed car. To Joan, it means she can make home improvements, travel or pay her children's college tuition with Signia's home equity loan. To Mark, it means that his business has greater flexibility with Signia's commercial loans and very competitive buying and selling rates for his foreign exchange transactions. To Richard, it means he can invest in term deposits and stocks with expert investment advice from Signia's team. Whatever financial flexibility means to you, Signia. Don't wait. Call or visit us today.
Barbados Yellow Pages. Print, mobile, online at barbadosyp.com.
When the flu strikes, it never comes in the same way. If you have a bad flu with cough, there's a suitable Panadol. Panadol Multi-Symptom.
And the Department of Archives was established in Barbados in 1964.
Across the Caribbean, a look at the top stories making news in the region is brought to you with the compliments of First Caribbean International Bank. Get there together.
In regional news, Jamaica's Prime Minister Bruce Golding will reshuffle his cabinet. The office of the Prime Minister made the announcement in a statement this morning. However, the statement did not indicate when the reshuffle will take place. It was only yesterday that the opposition reshuffled its shadow cabinet. Political commentator Anne Shirley said a cabinet reshuffle will be a difficult undertaking for the Prime Minister at this time, given several developments in recent months. The St. Kitts and Nevis government says it has been able to reschedule a $35 million loan from the Republic of China to be used for expansion of the apron at the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport and the reconstruction of the cruise ship berth at Port Zant. This information has come from Prime Minister Dr. Denzel Douglas. He said that his request was for the interest rate to be reduced from 5 to maybe 2 or 3% and a 5-year moratorium be granted as a result of the difficulties being experienced in the local economy. Well, days of debate cleared the way for human trafficking legislation to be passed in Trinidad and Tobago. Issues, however, were raised as to whether the counter-trafficking unit was preventing the constitutional power of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Prosecutions is something that the government respects, and therefore we moved with great dispatch to excise from the H that aspect which dealt with the criminal prosecutions and to put it in a separate bill consistent with the constitutional position.
Independent Senator Subhash Ram Kalawan also brought to government's attention a clause that may need a special majority, since he said it dealt with a person's constitutional right to owning property.
This piece of legislation, because it deals with property rights, and notwithstanding the Constitution speaks except by due process of law, I would like it to be recorded that the government is clear that this piece of legislation does not require special majority.
Government Senator Danny Miraj told the Senate the human trafficking legislation can help the government in its overall fight against crime.
Those that are involved in human trafficking may also be involved in other types of crimes, such as the movement of weapons.
Across the Caribbean is brought to you with the compliments of First Caribbean International Bank. Get there together.
Ahead is the Lime Sports World, but before we get to that, a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Safer roads. These are roads that are predictable and forgiving of mistakes. They're self-explaining in that their design encourages safe travel speeds. This tip in association with the Decade of Action for Road Safety.
Success. Often it's about choosing the right partner. Whether you're financing a small business idea, driving major developments, or seeking a stable environment for corporate deposits. When doors of opportunity open, First Caribbean has the people, the expertise, and the experience to help you prosper. Throughout the region, we take care of business. Let's start a partnership. First Caribbean. Get there together.
Barbados Gospel Fest 2011, May 21st to 29th, with top Billboard gospel artist William McDowell, I Give Myself Away, and Bushawn Mitchell, Nobody Greater, international author and speaker Michelle McKinney-Hammond, Minister Kevin Downswell of Jamaica, Positive of Trinidad and Tobago, and comedian Rod Z, among many others. More details on www.barbadosgospelfest.com. 7 exciting events over 9 days. Barbados Gospel Fest 2011, May 21st to 29th. Awesome.
Here in the emergency room, there's no time to lose. Every day, urgent cases are coming in. And at those times, you can't stop. Not even when a strong pain comes on. The kind of pain that makes you feel like your head is going boom, boom, boom. That's why I always have Panadol Ultra on hand. It has an added ingredient to maximize its effect, to relieve troubling pain such as migraine. And if it works for me, imagine what it can do for you.
Pride. A feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from achievements, qualities, or possessions. At Banks, we know what it takes to make a great beer because we've been doing it for over 45 years. That's why we're proud to tell the world that this beer,
Banks Beer, is made in Barbados.
Welcome to Lime Sports World.
Good evening to you. I'm Mark Seal with your Lime Sports World. Cave Hill of Barbados and Mona of Jamaica are tied for the top spot at this year's UWI Games after 5 events. Both teams have 30 points, with St. Augustine of Trinidad third on 24. Those are the points after athletics, swimming, lawn tennis, table tennis, and netball. Cave Hill clinched that netball title just this evening with victory over St. Augustine at the Netball Stadium in Waterford. CBC's Marsha Boyce was there.
Having already beaten Mona, Cave Hill had one hand on the title and they jumped to a 12-2 lead. St. Augustine's shooters struggled at the start. Goal shooter Abini Taylor only scored 5 of her 13 attempts. K-Phil, though, they led 14-5 at the end of the first quarter. St. Augustine would only score 4 goals in the second quarter compared to 15 by K-Phil. Demisha Croney had a decent game at goal attack for the Blackbirds, scoring 10 of her 19 attempts. They more than doubled their advantage to lead 29-9 at half-time. St. Augustine made 5 key changes in the third quarter, among them 2 new shooters. They scored 10 goals in that period alone. K-Phil's goal shooter, meantime, Monique James, scored 42 of her 59 attempts. They took a 40-19 lead into the final quarter. Giselle Burke replaced Croney at goal attack, and by then the game was all wrapped up. K-Phil won 53-27 to take the netball title. Marsha Boyce, CBC Sports.
Meanwhile, St. Augustine of Trinidad, they're last, but they at least won the table tennis competition. Earlier today, they beat Cave Hill 5-2 to secure the 2011 title. The push for the crown, though, was set up from yesterday when they edged Mona 4-3 at the Community College gym. Mona had already defeated Cave Hill earlier this week, and they were looking for the win over the Trinidad-based rivals to seal the title. But St. Augustine had other plans. Again, CBC's Marsha Boyce reports.
Former Barbados national player Shannon Douglin, back in the screen, had given St. Augustine the lead with a straight sets victory over Mona's Darrell Gordon. But current Jamaica national Shanique Clare leveled the tie for Mona, dismissing Shari Bino also in straight sets, 11-4, 11-3, 11-1. In the second men's singles match, St. Augustine's Annual Ramakan was up against Darren Salmon. Salmon did put up a good fight in the early stages, but Ramakan would put St. Augustine 2-1 ahead, winning the game 11-9, 11-6, 11-6. Nervita Ramcharan was looking to put St. Augustine up 3-1 when she took on Clara Clark in the second women's singles. And she started well, winning the first set 11-3. But Clark came storming back, and she would take the next 3 sets 11-7, 11-9, 12-10. So this fixture was level once again at 2 games apiece. Time for the men's doubles. Gordon of Mona teamed up with Saeed Thomas for this highly competitive match. But in the end, Douglin and Ramakan walked away with the win for St. Augustine. They took it 11-7, 13-11, 9-11, 11-7. Could the girls from Mona level proceedings again? Well, they did, beating St. Augustine 3-1. So it was down to the mixed doubles to see which team would be the overall winner. It would take 4 sets, but Douglin and Ramcharan would eventually beat Clare and Gordon 13-11, 12-10, 9-11, 11-4. St. Augustine winning overall 4-3. Marsha Boyce, CBC Sports.
On to cricket, Kieran Pollard's Mumbai Indians will face Chris Gill's Royal Challengers Bangalore for a place in the final of the Indian Premier League. Today, hosts Mumbai, playing coming up here in the blue, defeated the Kolkata Knight Riders in the elimination final by 4 wickets with 4 balls remaining. Kolkata batted first and made 147 for 7 in their 20 overs, with Ryan Tedescata top scoring with 17 not out. Pollard was expensive, with taking none for 31 from just 3 overs. Mumbai replied with 148 for 6 in 19.2 overs, thanks mainly to Aidan Blizzard's 51. Pollard again didn't fire, he only got 3. Now he and Gill will face off on Friday, with the winner of Mumbai versus Bangalore taking on the Chennai Super Kings in the IPL final. After the break, back to more netball.
So who's making your lime faves? Your best friends Tara, Julie, your mom, your sister. Any 5 for your faves, it's all good. You'll get unlimited local calls and texts to any 5 local Lime mobile or landline numbers. It's only $15 for 7 days or $45 for 30 days. Just text FAVE7 or FAVE30 to 145 to save with Lime faves for prepaid. So, who will be in your Lime faves? Choose your Lime faves today. Lime, for living every day.
St. Mary's remain unbeaten in the Pine Hill Dairy Primary School's netball competition. This week at the netball stadium in a top-of-the-table clash in the Agnes Critchlow zone, St. Mary's beat George Lamin 5-3. Now before that, St. Mary's warmed up with victory over Eagle Hall, while Deacons topped Westbury. Again, Marsha Boyce reports on those matches.
Deacons in the Red Bibs were favored to win this match against Westbury. Shooters Kayla Vaughn and Tiana Barker made sure they got off to a good start. The two played well in the circle together, often leaving their defenses behind. Here's goal shooter Vaughn. They would lead 7-0 at half-time. The second half was just as one-sided. Barker was left too free at times and she made Westbury pay. She converted 6 of her 7 attempts in the game. Vaughn was just as good with 7 from 8. Deacons would win 13-0. In another match, Eagle Hall in orange and blue were looking to rebound from their earlier 12-2 defeat to George Lamin. And things were looking up against St. Mary's, who despite being one of the zone favourites, only led 2-0 at half-time. But after a talk with their coach at the break, the girls from St. Mary's settled and took charge. Goal attack Aisha Haynes led the way with 5 goals in the second half, finishing with 7 from 8. The struggles for Eagle Hall continued as St. Mary's would easily win the game 8-0. Marsha Boyce, CBC Sports.
On to basketball, Leicester Vaughan travelled to St. Lucie Secondary and dismissed their host 48-28 in the Co-Operators General Under 16 basketball competition. The winners led 32-10 at halftime. CBC's Andy Thornhill was there.
St. Lucie with home court advantage did have their moments, even though they were beaten. But look at DeMar Austin. He was one of the keys to Leicester Vaughan's success. He'd finished with 12. Again, here comes Justin Grosette in the paint for 2. A turnover, and they'd be punished. He was the provider. Now he's a scorer. John Howard finished with 13. In the paint, all of the time they wrote their name in glory. Leicester Vaughan. At the other end, the home team said, I'd show you what I can do. But look at the chemistry between these players from Leicester Vaughan. No wonder that they won, and they won in a canter. But perhaps the best play of them all came from Gazette. Too little though, too late. Andy Thornhill, CBC Sports.
In tennis, Novak Djokovic collected his 41st consecutive win today in his French Open second-round match at Roland Garros.
Looking to continue his 40-match win streak against Victor Hanescu of Romania. 40-match win streak dating back to last season. Djokovic gets to the forehand, will come up with a big winner. A few points later, Djokovic here in this first set scoops up the backhand. Djokovic will break Hanescu to take the first set, 6-4. Second set action, Djokovic showing confidence early, up 1-love. Djokovic would end up with the early break, would break again to take the second set 6-1, and then leading 3-2. Oh boy, Djokovic, tough forehand down the line, and that was it for Hanescu. He would retire. That was it. You know, he's worked on by the trainer. So, hey, that counts for Djokovic. That's 39 straight victories this season.
In a couple of minutes, Kent Jerson and the Business Report.
This has been Lime Sports World.
The cracking snacking range of Wabisco Bites comes in Honey Graham Bites, Cheesy Bites, and City Bites.
1, 2, 3. I want something good. Don't you stop at 1. Enjoy that pack until it's gone. Pack, snack, and throw it back. Wabisco Bites is the snack.
Wabisco Bites.
Get your snacking cracking.
Log on to www.wabiscobites.com for a chance to win great prizes.
The Sparman Clinic is designed to provide the comfort of your own home while you receive cutting-edge medical and cardiac care. Our group of 7 doctors and staff deliver outstanding customer service. Our facilities include a high-tech operating room, ambulance service, 7 beds, ICU, gym, and cardiac rehab. We offer dietary therapy, weight loss, executive physical, inclusive of massage therapy, and a pharmacy with free delivery nationwide. Remember, the Sparman Clinic. We care.
Are you looking for a loan of up to $10,000 but don't know where to go?
Then here's good news from Consolidated Finance in Hastings. If your car is 7 years or younger and valued more than you owe, Consolidated can loan you up to $10,000 with 3 years to repay.
That's right. Your car can get you up to $10,000. Maybe you want to pay off some bills, go on a vacation, or simply make a long-delayed purchase.
Whatever it is, call or come to Consolidated Finance in Hastings for more details.
Special conditions apply.
When the flu strikes, it never comes in the same way. If you have the flu but can't afford to fall asleep, there's a suitable Panadol. Panadol multi-symptom non-drowsy.
Tonight's business report is brought to you by the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, where you belong.
Good evening, I'm Ken Johnson. This is the business report. Finance Minister Chris Sinclair says the administration of government has become too large, inflexible, slow and costly. He was addressing the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry luncheon at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center. Mr. Sinclair said successive governments have created a number of statutory authorities that have overlapping responsibilities. According to him, too many of these organizations have become increasing burdens on taxpayers.
They have become wholly inefficient in service delivery, extremely costly to maintain, weak in some managerial and operational systems as well. This is not to say that they have bad managers. Clearly, many of them have extremely good managers. But at a systemic and structural level, these institutions are no longer effectively and efficiently delivering to the public they are supposed to serve.
Mr. Sinclair said any change will require the strongest of wills and the full cooperation of all stakeholders. He added that the task is so important, government has started to consider changes, including revamping the national procurement system.
I fully anticipate, however, that a more transparent, efficient, flexible and less centralized tendering process will emerge from this overhaul. I equally anticipate very shortly a set of recommendations from another team working on a complete review of the expenditure system in government. And our objectives are to ensure that levels of wastage, which have now become commonplace in many ministries and departments, will quickly become a thing of the past, while allowing us to better allocate resources in the most critical areas to produce the greatest level of impact.
In other news, local hoteliers are cautiously optimistic about the summer tourist season. That period runs from mid-June until September. President of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Colin Jordan, says the bookings have not been bad, but there are some soft spots.
The numbers are not disastrous. We still believe that we can ride out the summer. We just are very cautious in saying that because so many things can impact us. There is the ash cloud now over Northern Europe. We're not sure what kind of impact that is going to have. We don't know, we can't predict if there are going to be future eruptions. There's also the issue of additional taxes that may go on to travel tickets from other countries in Europe or from the European Union as a whole. All those things will impact.
Mr. Jordan told the business report that given the challenges the sector continues to face, the players understand that they have to do things differently.
We're doing all of this within the context of trying to maintain jobs. We understand our social responsibility, but as we go into the summer, we're going to have to reduce hours. We believe that that is going to become necessary because we don't want to go into any mass layoffs. We engage with people, and the people who work in the establishment serve other people. So we realize that we have a responsibility to them as well. And we're going to have to look at our energy use, a number of other things to allow us to be able to survive the summer period.
Now for a brief look at the stocks, here's a summary of today's trading on some of the region's exchanges.
Look now at international business as Oprah Winfrey retires from hosting the most successful talk show in TV history. Many are acknowledging the power of the Oprah brand.
What's happened, I think, and what she did as a businesswoman is very early on understand the power of multimedia.
A mere mention on her show, and a book was launched onto the bestseller list. It became known as the Oprah Effect.
The Oprah Effect is huge. She has this incredible ripple effect through the sales of any number of products, from face creams to entertainment.
And by owning her own brand, i.e. Harpo Productions, she's only the third person in American female TV history to do something like that. That was a big chance she took early on.
She has controlled her business destiny.
Millions of fans will tune in for her last show, where some advertisers have reportedly paid $1 million for 30 seconds of commercial time. A multi-billionaire, she will devote the next phase of her career to her own cable network.
She is doing this with a partner. It's a 50-50 joint venture with Discovery Communications. To give you an idea of the value of Oprah, Discovery's put in $190 million, okay? Oprah's put in Oprah.com and her archive of old shows and the promise that she'll be on air for 70 hours a year. There is only one Oprah. That's still going to be valuable for a long time.
That's a look at business. Weather is next with David Best.
Tonight's business report was brought to you by the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, where you belong.
Are you looking for a loan of up to $10,000 but don't know where to go?
Then here's good news from Consolidated Finance in Hastings. If your car is 7 years or younger and valued more than you owe, Consolidated can loan you up to $10,000 with 3 years to repay.
That's right. Your car can get you up to $10,000. Maybe you want to pay off some bills, go on a vacation, or simply make a long-delayed purchase.
Whatever it is, call or come to Consolidated Finance in Hastings for more details.
Special conditions apply.
It's time for BMX 2011 at the Port Erskine Sandiford Centre, June 10th to 13th, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Adults $15, children 12 and under $5. You'll be blown away by the finest food, furniture, and construction manufacturers have to offer. Enjoy a weekend of amazing artistry and awesome family fun. Also witness our ever-sizzling boardwalk fashions and enjoy the nightly local entertainment. BMX 2011. Innovation through inspiration.
Hey mama, hey papa, Emerald City and Carlton. Sweet mommy, love your daddy. Emerald City and Carlton. Keep home, sweet home. Emerald City and Carlton. Wow, yummy, yum.
Variety, convenience, and great prices. Open till 1 minute past 10.
Emerald City and Carlton.
Naniki presents Classics and Jazz, featuring Bajan world-renowned master drummer Roy Haynes. Get your tickets now from Supercenter Warrens and Supercenter Big B, CS Pharmacy, A&B Sound Sheraton, and Travel House Mall International, or book online at www.lushlife.bb. Brought to you in association with Mount Gay Extra Old Rum, Piper Heintic Champagne, Shiva's Regal Scotch Whiskey, The Travel House, CBC TV8, the NCF, the BTA, Elko Rentals, QSI, Field Tech Inc., Acute Vision, and Starcom Network Inc.
A very good evening to all, and I heard lots of complaints today. It was hot, but Lisa said no, it was very hot. Take a look at the extreme temperatures read at the airport. We got up to 31.6 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature was overnight was 25 degrees Celsius. At 6 o'clock, skies were fair. The temperature was down to 28.8, the humidity 79%. And the winds out of the southeast at 13 kilometers per hour. The apparent temperature, 40 degrees Celsius at noon. That is what it actually felt like on the outside. And the principal reason, well, let's get to that. Barbados and the islands in the Eastern Caribbean. There's this high pressure system centered in and around here. This system is trying very desperately to establish itself as the dominant feature, but there's a deep layered low pressure system in the northeastern Atlantic that has a trough trailing all the way down. This system was responsible for significantly weakening the high pressure system, and as a result the winds were very light. That continues to be the major reason why we're feeling the heat so much, and it's not expected to go away anytime soon. Now, the moisture levels were down quite significantly. We saw just a few showers developing off the north coast of Barbados, and generally that pattern is going to be prevailing across the area tomorrow. They generally light rains, but the moisture levels are down. There could be a chance of a few afternoon showers, but as I indicated, just marginal amounts of moisture. A totally different situation down south over the Guyanas, the very active intertropical convergence zone, lots of showers and thunderstorms. Some of that activity came as far north as Trinidad and Tobago, and they too shared in the activity. Over the northern portion of the region, there's a bit more moisture in to the north of the area, in the vicinity of Puerto Rico and some of the western islands, but they're being plagued with the similar conditions. The winds will continue to be light. They're going to be looking at some afternoon showers, possible thunderstorms, while we could very well see a few scattered showers developing, mostly during the afternoon. And of course, the intertropical convergence zone will be very active down south over the Guyanas and as far as north as Trinidad. Take a look at our four-day prediction. We're looking at Thursday through to Sunday, and we're going to be looking at partly cloudy skies, scattered afternoon showers possibly tomorrow. Thereafter is going to be mostly fair. Sunrise in Barbados tomorrow, 29 minutes to 6 o'clock. Sunset will be at 19 minutes after 6. The tides, the first high tide, 21 minutes after 11 in the AM. The second is going to be at 11:46 in the PM. The first low tide, 29 minutes to 6 in the AM. The second is going to be at 6 minutes after 5 in the evening. And the seas, slight to moderate in open water. The swells are now down to 1.5 meters. And the winds across Barbados and across the region, east-northeasterly to east-southeasterly, 10 to 35 kilometers per hour. The outlook for us here in Barbados tonight, mostly fair. However, a few scattered showers are likely for tonight and tomorrow. Fair to partly cloudy with a few scattered showers during the afternoon. And of course, get out those cooling devices, fans, air conditioning systems. It is going to be hot.
For all your financial needs, we call the Butterfield. For all that you can achieve, we call the Butterfield. Professional personal service. All your financial needs, we call the Butterfield. For all that you can achieve, we call the Butterfield. Professional personal service, Butterfield. I'd like to reach out to you, to help with what you wanna do. For all your needs and aspirations will far exceed your expectations. Professional personal service, Butterfield.
As Banks Holdings Limited grows and expands to meet increasing global challenges, we remain a true Bajan success story. Not only are BHL products a part of every Bajan home, but we're in the region and increasingly even further afield. So as you continue to make Banks Holdings Limited part of your life, you continue to strive for excellence.
BHL, many companies, one goal, BHL.
Next time on Economics.
Ian Bourne.
Remember, vote for me.
Hi there, folks. I'm back on TV, and I'm telling you to vote for me. What I'm going to be doing is a 3-egg omelet with lots of cheese.
For charity, Economics.
On to international news now, and speaking in London's Westminster Hall, U.S. President Barack Obama today discussed the path to defend the need for American and British leadership in the future.
Mr. Obama said the two nations had shaped a world that made it possible for emerging economies to develop and democracies to grow. He admitted the international order has been reshaped by nations like China and Brazil, but denied that that meant that the U.S. and Europe are in decline.
And yet, as this rapid change has taken place, it's become fashionable in some quarters to question whether the rise of these nations will accompany the decline of American and European influence around the world. Perhaps, the argument goes, these nations represent the future, and the time for our leadership has passed. That argument is wrong. The time for our leadership is now.
French Finance Minister Christine Lagarde has announced her bid to become head of the International Monetary Fund after its former managing director, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, resigned in the wake of charges he tried to rape a hotel maid in New York. She would be the first woman to run the fund since the global financial institution was founded in 1946. But the fact that she's French could pose a problem.
Well, I think that's one of the problems that she faces. I mean, she said today it wasn't a handicap being French, but I think, frankly, it will be at least one thing that people talk about is that, 4 out of the last 10 directors of the IMF have been French. So for the world to turn to France once again for an IMF director, it seems kind of unusual. You touched on an issue, though, that's interesting. I asked her today about gender equality, and one of the things that's been remarked upon at the IMF is this lack of gender equality at the institution. And she said that every institution that she's been at, including Baker McKenzie, the law firm, and in the finance ministry, she has always worked for gender equality. So I think from that standpoint, and also from the standpoint that you're coming off a sex scandal here, it probably wouldn't be all that bad to see a French woman or a woman in charge of the IMF. Perhaps it would bring back a little bit of balance to the organization.
The final of the April Oprah show aired today. CNN takes a look at the icon's contribution to broadcast.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you do know by now that Oprah Winfrey will sign off for the very last time later today. We have all heard about the so-called Oprah effect over the years, but what about those people she's touched on a more personal level, the little lessons she's taught by example? Well, we spoke to some of the people who know her best. She's given away cars, sat with stars, even had a hand in the presidential election. Oprah Winfrey's favorite things are our favorite things. The people she likes, we love, like Dr. Oz.
Oprah touched my life.
Mehmet Oz, who some are calling the next Oprah, says what he learned from the Queen of Talk was to listen.
I'm getting the tutorial in this.
Okay.
My biggest weakness of all, without any question, listen, I'm a guy and I'm a surgeon. That's 2 strikes. I don't listen well.
Oz says Oprah taught him to stop trying to fix the problem and let the audience be heard.
I think what Oprah understood was that Marcus Welby was dead. Those doctors weren't practicing anymore. And so we needed to create a very different genre of healer that understood the role of the patient.
You could be anywhere.
Like Dr. Oz, Nate Berkus, Oprah's decorator, also has his own show. But what he remembers most is coming on as a guest just weeks after he survived the Asian tsunami.
Sorry.
His partner, Fernando, did not.
The entire community of viewers of the Oprah Winfrey Show rallied around me, got out their checkbooks, and made donations.
Millions of dollars. Why he decided to bare his soul and show his pain so soon after his loss. Berkus says he would not have done it anywhere else. Will there ever be another Oprah?
Please take it from me, there will never, under any circumstances, there won't be a funnier Oprah, there won't be a kinder Oprah, there'll never be anybody like Oprah.
And as Oprah signs off, Mehmet Oz moves in. On Thursday, the Dr. Oz Show slides to Oprah's old slot, 4 p.m., in a number of key markets. But the move is bittersweet.
So, Oprah, I love you dearly. I wish you the best.
And we're back after the break with a recap of the top stories.
H&B Hardware has the best price deals for you. Get great prices on 75-watt flood bulbs, $4.99. 1 gallon coolant, $5.99. Mason hatchet, $19.99. 4.5-inch grinder, $189.99. And 7.25-inch circular saw, $193.99. H&B Hardware, the helpful hardware, Warren St. Michael. Call 425-4565.
Always ultra thin pads have leak guard protection to absorb super quickly and adjust to sudden variations of flow. No matter what surprises get you caught, no other ultra absorbs faster. So relax, we've got you covered. Have a happy period, always.
7 days? 7 hours. 7 years of Socoholic fever. 7 strong lads. 7. Only one station. 7. 7.
Now here's a recap of the top stories interpreted for the hearing impaired and brought to you with the compliments of Carlton and Emerald City supermarkets, where the weekly specials are at better prices.
Finance Minister Chris Sinclair has warned customs operations throughout the region that they will be significantly challenged with the advent of new trade arrangements like the CARIFORM EU Economic Partnership Agreement. He says the EPA will create two specific effects, namely the export and revenue effects. The leader of the Concerned Investors and Policyholders Group of CLICO International Life and British American Insurance Company is optimistic there will be a turnaround in the fortunes of CLICO. June Fowler says Judicial Manager Oliver Jordan met with them 2 weeks ago and assured them that wrapping up CLICO will be the very last option to be pursued. In the weather forecast tonight, it will be mostly fair. However, a few scattered showers are likely tomorrow. Fair to partly cloudy with a few scattered showers, mostly during the afternoon.
That recap of the top stories interpreted for the hearing impaired was brought to you with the compliments of Carlton and Emerald City supermarkets, where the weekly specials are at better prices.
And that's news. Thanks so much for joining us. Do have a wonderful night.